Okay, so picture this. A civilization so advanced that it built these perfectly planned cities, but at the same time, so mysterious that we can't read a single word they ever wrote. Today, we are going to piece together the incredible story of the Harappan civilization using the only real clues they left behind for us: their bricks, their beads, and their bones. And it all really starts with this one puzzle. What you're looking at is a Harappan seal, carved out of a soft stone called steatite. It's so detailed, really beautiful, but it holds a message that, even after 100 years of trying, nobody on Earth can read. This one tiny object, with its silent script, is basically our front door into a completely lost world. So that's where our whole exploration begins, with this fundamental problem. How in the world do you understand a people who left behind massive cities and incredible treasures, but whose actual words are completely lost to time? Well, we have no choice. We have to let their silent artifacts do all the talking. All right, first things first, let's get the names straight because you'll hear two of them. There's the Harappan civilization, and then there's the Indus Valley Civilization. Don't worry, they mean the exact same thing. The name Harappa just comes from the very first city that was discovered and excavated, and it ended up giving its name to the entire culture. And this wasn't just some flash in the pan. We are talking about a massive chunk of history here. The civilization started out in what we call the early phase, kind of growing and finding its feet. Then it just exploded into this prosperous urban society during the mature phase. That's when all the famous cities were built. And finally, it entered the late phase, which was a period of big changes and eventually decline. And the scale here is just mind-boggling. This was not a small kingdom or a single city-state. No, this was a civilization that sprawled across a huge territory, covering parts of modern-day Pakistan, India, and even into Afghanistan. Every single one of those black dots you see on the map, that's just one of its many known settlements. In fact, to date, archaeologists have found over 2,000 separate Harappan sites. Just let that sink in for a moment. More than 2,000 villages, towns, and huge cities, all somehow connected within this one giant civilization. The scope is almost hard to wrap your head around. But the thing that really makes them stand out, and what still fascinates researchers today, is how good they were at urban planning. These people were, without a doubt, ancient masters of building cities from the ground up. This one quote really captures their genius. Just think for a second about how most ancient and even modern cities grow. It's usually a bit messy, right? Not the Harappans. They actually planned their infrastructure, the streets, and, incredibly, their drainage systems, before anything else. The houses came second, built neatly along that pre-existing grid. That level of foresight is just, wow. So this methodical approach gave them a grid system. You had major roads and smaller streets cutting across each other at almost perfect right angles. This was no accident. This was deliberate, large-scale urban design. And it created cities that were organized, super efficient, and probably way cleaner than you'd expect. Now, here's where their obsession with planning gets really clear. And this is a key detail you'll want to remember. It went all the way down to the smallest component, the literal bricks they built with. It didn't matter if they were sun-dried or baked in a kiln. Every single brick was made to a standardized ratio. And not just in one city, but across all Harappan sites. And that ratio was incredibly precise. The length was always 4 times the height, and the breadth was always 2 times the height. Finding this exact same brick proportion across thousands of miles and hundreds of sites, that is some of the strongest evidence we have for a highly organized, maybe even centrally managed system. Okay, so we've seen the big picture city planning. Let's zoom way in now, down to the micro level. What are the actual objects they left behind? Their crafts, their burials. Tell us about what their lives, their economy, and their society were actually like. We find this incredible variety of artifacts. You've got these beautiful, intricate beads, perfectly calibrated stone weights, and razor-sharp blades. These weren't just things made for someone's own use. They point to a society with highly skilled, specialized artisans and a massive trade network to get raw materials and sell finished goods. So all this evidence of wealth and specialized crafts, it brings up a pretty basic question, right? In a society that's this complex, this organized, was everybody on the same playing field? Was it an equal society? And how would we even figure that out? Well, for answers, archaeologists often turn to the dead. By studying burials, like this one here, they hunt for clues, and they find them.
Some people were just laid to rest in simple pits, but others, they were in pits lined with bricks or buried with valuable pottery and ornaments. Those differences strongly suggest that, yeah, some form of social hierarchy probably existed.
Okay, so if there were social differences, who was calling the shots? This is one of the absolute biggest debates in Harappan archaeology. On one hand, some scholars argue it was a society with no rulers at all, just a collection of equal communities. Then you have the theory that each major city, like Harappa or Mohenjodaro, had its own king or ruler. And the third big idea, which is supported by things like those standardized bricks, points to a single, powerful state that governed the whole civilization.
So we've seen their rise, their incredible planning, their beautiful crafts. But then it all started to change. And now we have to tackle the second great mystery of the Harappans. Why did they disappear?
Around 1800 BCE, the archaeological record is just stark. People started leaving the great cities. All that distinctive stuff, the seals with the unreadable script, the standard weights, those special beads, it all just starts to vanish. Writing disappears, long-distance trade dries up, the whole system just seems to fall apart. So, what happened? Well, there's no single easy answer. It was likely a perfect storm of factors. There's good evidence pointing to major climate change that made farming a lot harder. Other theories suggest deforestation led to massive soil erosion. You've got ideas about catastrophic floods wiping out cities, or maybe the very rivers that were their lifeblood just dried up or changed course, leaving cities high and dry. But here's the bottom line. While all those environmental problems were almost certainly happening, the general consensus today suggests the collapse was ultimately a political one. That strong, unifying element, maybe the Harappan state itself, the thing that coordinated everything from brick sizes to trade routes, it just fractured and fell apart. So for this final section, let's kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and look at the process of discovery. How did we manage to piece this whole incredible story together from just scattered ruins and silent objects? The early days were, to put it mildly, full of confusion. When the first head of the Archaeological Survey of India, a man named Alexander Cunningham, first found these Harappan seals, he was totally baffled. They didn't look like anything he knew from India's later history, which was mostly understood through written text. These seals, they just didn't fit into the timeline at all.
Now, flash forward to today. At huge sites like Rakatagi, science has given us these amazing new tools. There's a field called archaeogenetics, where researchers can now carefully extract and analyze ancient DNA from skeletons. For the very first time, we are literally beginning to read the genetic history of the Harappan people themselves.
And yet, for all of our incredible modern science, that very first mystery, the one we started with, it's still there. The script is still unreadable. And that leaves us with this final, really tantalizing question. If we could finally crack the code and read their words, what other incredible secrets about this amazing civilization are still just waiting for us, buried beneath the sand?